Tonight, I'm not just telling you stories. I'm sharing experiences that feel too real to ignore. These aren't normal forest tales. Something about them feels wrong. If you listen carefully, you'll notice it too. So stay till the end, because each story gets darker and harder to explain. 1. The cabin that shouldn't exist on any map. I still remember the exact day because nothing has felt normal since then. It started as a simple weekend trip. I just wanted to get away from everything. Phone notifications, people, noise. So I picked a forest area that barely showed up on Google Maps. It was one of those places where the roads slowly disappear and turn into dirt paths. At first, everything felt peaceful. The air was colder than I expected, and there was this strange silence. Not the relaxing kind, but the kind where you feel like something is missing. I had been walking for maybe 2 hours when I realized something was off. The trail I was following, it just ended. No signs, no markings, just trees in every direction. I checked my phone, but there was no signal, not even a single bar. That's when I felt it for the first time, that uncomfortable feeling like I wasn't alone. I told myself I was overthinking and decided to head back the way I came. But after walking for nearly 30 minutes, I couldn't recognize anything. The same trees, the same silence. It felt like I was walking in circles. That's when I saw it. A cabin. It was sitting between the trees like it had always been there, but something about it didn't feel right. It didn't look abandoned, but it didn't look lived in either. Just still. I don't know why, but I felt drawn to it. As I got closer, I noticed there were no footprints around it. The ground was soft enough that there should have been some kind of marks, but there was nothing. The door was slightly open. I remember standing there for a good minute just staring at it. Every instinct told me to leave, but I didn't. I pushed the door open slowly. Inside, it was darker than it should have been. The windows were there, but somehow the light wasn't coming in properly. The air felt heavy, like it hadn't been disturbed in years. There was a table in the center of the room. On it was a map. And this is the part I still can't explain. The map looked old, but it was detailed. It showed the forest, trails, and then I saw something that made my stomach drop. There was a small mark on it, a circle, and right next to that circle, written in faded ink, were the words, "You are here." I froze, because I hadn't seen this place on any map before coming here. I stepped back, trying to process what I was looking at, and that's when I heard it. A sound from outside. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, moving around the cabin. At first, I thought maybe someone else was out there, maybe the owner. I even felt a bit relieved, until I realized something. The footsteps didn't sound normal.
They were too slow. Too deliberate, like whatever was out there knew exactly where I was. I stopped breathing for a second, just listening. The footsteps came closer to the door, then stopped. Complete silence. I waited, expecting the door to open, but it didn't. Instead, I heard something else, a knock. 3 times. Not loud, not aggressive, just calm. That was enough for me. I grabbed my bag and moved toward the back of the cabin. There was another door, half broken. I didn't think, I just ran. I don't even remember which direction I went. I just kept running until my legs started to give out. After what felt like forever, I finally found a road, an actual road. A passing truck stopped when they saw me, and the driver asked if I was okay. I didn't even know what to say. I just nodded and asked him where we were. He told me the name of the place, and I swear I had never heard of it before. When I got back home, I tried to find that cabin again. I searched online maps, old records, hiking forums, anything. There was nothing. No cabin, no trail, nothing even close to what I saw. The strangest part? That map I saw inside the cabin, I can still picture it clearly in my head. And sometimes I think about that circle, and I can't shake the feeling that it wasn't marking where I was. It was marking where I was supposed to be. Story 2. Something knocked on our tent at 3 a.m. I didn't believe in anything supernatural before that night. I always thought people just scared themselves when they were alone in the dark. Now I don't think that anymore. It happened last winter when I went on a solo camping trip. I picked a quiet forest area far away from the city. I wanted silence, just for one night. No people, no noise, just me and the woods. Everything felt normal at first. I set up my tent just before sunset. The air was cold, but not uncomfortable. I even remember thinking how peaceful it was. That feeling didn't last long. As soon as the sun went down, the forest changed. It wasn't just darker, it felt empty. No insects, no wind, no distant animal sounds, just silence that felt too heavy, like something was holding it down. I told myself it was normal and got inside my tent. I checked my phone, no signal. That didn't bother me at the time. I zipped the tent, lay down, and tried to sleep. I don't know what time it was when I woke up, but something felt wrong. At first, I thought it was just the cold, but then I realized it was too quiet, even quieter than before. I stayed still, listening. That's when I heard it, a soft sound right outside the tent, like something moving slowly over the ground. I held my breath and tried to focus. Maybe it was an animal. That made sense. It had to be an animal. Then it stopped, right next to my head. I could feel it.
Something was standing just inches away from the fabric of the tent. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe properly. I just stared at the inside wall of the tent, waiting for the sound to continue. But it didn't. For a few seconds, there was nothing. And then, knock. I froze. It was clear, not random noise, not wind, not an animal brushing against the tent. It was a knock. 3 slow taps. Knock, knock, knock. My mind tried to explain it, but nothing made sense. Who would be out here at this time? And why would they knock like that? I didn't respond. I just stayed completely still, hoping whatever it was would go away. But then it happened again. Knock, knock, knock. Same pattern, same slow, controlled sound. This time, it was louder and closer. I felt my chest tighten. My heart was beating so hard I thought whoever or whatever was outside could hear it. I slowly reached for my flashlight, trying not to make any noise. Another knock. This time, from the other side of the tent. I stopped. That's when the fear really hit me. There was no way something could move that fast without making a sound. I turned on the flashlight, my hands shaking, and pointed it at the tent wall. For a second, I saw nothing. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. A shape, a shadow, pressing lightly against the fabric. It didn't look like an animal. It looked like fingers. Long, thin, too long. They pressed against the tent slowly, like something was feeling its way around. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, but my voice just wouldn't come out. The fingers dragged across the tent, slowly, making this soft, scratching sound. Then they stopped, right where my face was. I was inches away from whatever that thing was. And then I heard it. A whisper. Not loud, not clear, but enough to know it was trying to say something.
I couldn't understand the words, but it sounded wrong, like it wasn't meant to speak. That was it. I grabbed my bag, unzipped the tent as fast as I could, and ran. I didn't look back. I didn't care what was out there. I just ran into the dark, hitting branches, tripping over rocks, not even feeling the pain. I only stopped when I saw lights in the distance. A road. A car passed by, and I waved it down like my life depended on it. The driver looked confused, but he let me in. I must have looked insane. He asked me what happened, but I couldn't explain it. Even now, I don't know how to explain it. The next day, I went back with 2 friends. I thought maybe I imagined everything. Maybe fear just got to me. But when we reached the spot, my tent was gone. Not broken, not moved, gone, like it was never there. And the ground, there were no footprints. Not mine, not anyone else's, just untouched dirt. I never went back to that forest again. But sometimes, when I'm trying to sleep, I still hear it. That slow, calm knocking, right next to my head. Knock, knock, knock.
3-story, The Missing Hiker's Final Recording. I didn't plan to hear that recording. If I hadn't taken that extra shift, I probably never would have known about it. I used to volunteer with a small local search team. Nothing serious, mostly helping with missing hikers, guiding people back to trails, things like that. Most cases ended well. People got lost, panicked, and eventually someone found them. This one was different from the start. 2 hikers had gone missing in a remote forest area. They were experienced, not the kind of people who just wander off trail without knowing what they're doing. Their car was found parked near the entrance, but there was no sign of them anywhere. We were called in 3 days after they disappeared. By then, the mood had already changed. Nobody was joking, nobody was relaxed. Even the forest felt wrong. I know that sounds strange, but I've been in enough woods to know how they usually feel. This one felt quiet in a bad way. No birds, no insects, just this heavy silence that made you aware of every step you took. We split into small groups and started searching along different routes. I was with 2 other guys, following a trail that the hikers were believed to have taken. At first, we didn't find anything. Then, we found their backpack. It was just lying there, off to the side of the trail, not hidden, not damaged, just placed there. That didn't make sense. People don't just leave their gear behind like that, especially not experienced hikers. We called it in, and while we were waiting for instructions, one of the guys opened the bag to check for anything useful. That's when we found the recorder. It was a small handheld audio recorder, the kind people use to document trips or take notes. It was still working.
There was only 1 file on it. I remember we looked at each other for a second before pressing play. I don't think any of us expected what we were about to hear. At first, it sounded normal, just 2 people talking. You could hear them walking, branches snapping under their feet, the sound of wind moving through trees. They were discussing their route, making casual comments. Nothing unusual, but after a minute or so, something changed. One of them stopped talking mid-sentence. There was a pause, then he said, "Did you hear that?" The other one laughed a little like he thought it was nothing, but then you could hear it, a sound in the background. Faint, but there. It sounded like someone walking, not close, but not far either. The kind of sound that makes you stop and listen. They both went quiet for a few seconds, then one of them said, "There's someone out here." That's when the tone of the recording shifted completely. You could hear it in their voices. The confidence was gone. Now there was tension, confusion. They called out, asking if anyone was there. No response, but the sound didn't stop. It kept moving, slowly, like it was circling them. I remember feeling this cold sensation while listening to it, like my body understood something my mind didn't. Then one of them said something that didn't sit right with me. He said, "It sounds like us." At first, I didn't understand what he meant, but then the other guy whispered, "No, listen carefully." We all leaned closer to the recorder without even realizing it, and that's when I heard it too. The footsteps, they were matching their own, not following. Matching. Every step they took, the sound followed at the exact same time, like a mirror. The recording picked up their breathing getting heavier. They started walking faster, so did the other footsteps, then running, and the sound kept up perfectly. There was no delay, no difference, just exact copies of their movements. Then suddenly, it stopped, completely. The silence that followed was worse than anything before it. One of them whispered, "Where did it go?" And then, a new sound, right behind them, closer than before. So close that it didn't even sound like footsteps anymore. It sounded like something dragging itself just a few feet away. One of them started breathing heavily, almost panicking. The other one said, "Don't turn around." There was a long pause. You could feel the fear in that silence. And then one of them turned. You don't hear him turn. You hear his reaction, a sharp inhale. Like he saw something he wasn't supposed to see. And then the recording breaks for a second, like it glitched. When it comes back, everything is chaos. Heavy breathing, running, branches snapping. One of them yelling, "It's not right! It's not..." The audio cuts again. For a few seconds, there's nothing but static. And then, the last part. A voice. But not theirs. It sounded like one of them, but something was off. The tone was wrong. The rhythm was wrong. Like something was trying to copy a human voice, but didn't fully understand how. It said very clearly, "Don't run." The recording ended right there. None of us said anything after it stopped. We just stood there in that silent forest, holding that recorder like it was something dangerous. We continued the search for 2 more days. They were never found. No bodies, no tracks, nothing. Just that backpack and that recording. I've heard a lot of explanations since then. People say it could be stress, fear, imagination, audio distortion. Maybe. But I know what I heard. And sometimes, when I'm alone and everything is quiet, I think about that voice, the way it tried to sound human. And I can't help but wonder, if something out there learned how to copy us, what else did it learn before they disappeared?